I can only tolerate people for about 6 months, so when it came time to pick a career, I had to find one that had a constantly rotating group of people. Teacher? The students, move on. Nurse in a geriatric ward? The old people, move on. Both met my criteria. I went into education, but I still get annoyed when I see old students at the grocery store. The teacher in this movie found a way to fix that problem. Welcome to Exploitation Reviews, and me, Rob, and today I'm taking a look at Class of 1984 from 1982. And hey, before we get started, my channel analytics tell me that most of the people who watch my videos are return viewers. That's pretty cool. The analytics also tell me that most of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel. That's less cool. Is that you? Is this your third or fourth time here and are you still not subscribed? Stop it! Hit that button right now. Do it. Nothing bad will happen. You'll be fine. I'll be better off. Hit the button. Do it now. Subscribe. Right now. Good. So, Class of 1984. This film comes to us from director Mark L. Lester, who is probably best known as the director of Commando, but who viewers of my show probably best know as the director of Bobby Joe and the Outlaw, or maybe Truck Stop Women. So, he's a director who likes a bit of the old ultra-violence and a bit of the sexy. So, let's see what he does with high school students. We open on a card telling us there's lots of violence in American schools. And oh boy, isn't he going to be surprised in 20 years. Or maybe not, actually. One of the reasons that Lester made this film was that he was disturbed by the rising violence in America's schools. And so he made this, which is a pretty violent film, and at the time was criticized for being totally outlandish. 1999 showed us it was perhaps not outlandish enough. But anyway, we get a cheesy song that accompanies images of teachers and students filing into school. The teachers have guns, and the students have ballistic missiles. The new teacher, that's Perry King, we last saw him on this channel in Mandingo. Here, he is surprised the school has a metal detector. He's even more surprised the guards don't care if the kids sneak in weapons. A more seasoned teacher, that's Roddy McDowall by the way, you might know him from Fright Night or the classic Planet of the Apes movies. He tells the new teach that he should learn to look the other way. In his first class, Mr. Norris has a run-in with the school's main gang, led by the psychopathic Stegman. Also in the class is a baby Michael J. Fox. That evening, the gang, using a directory they had stolen from the school, arrives at Mr. Norris's house.
You guys want some?
And then they go to a punk club. That band on the stage, by the way, is the Canadian punk band Teenage Head. Backstage at the club is where the gang has their office. Here, people apply for jobs to be pushers or prostitutes. The next day, Mr. Norris interrupts a drug deal going on in the school bathroom. The gang, of course, denies everything, and Mr. Norris's evidence is circumstantial. The principal tells him he has to catch them in the act or the evidence isn't good enough. Michael J. Fox was there, and he saw them in the act, but he's not willing to say anything against them, even after the drugs they sold his friend lead to that friend's death. Later, Mr. Norris with his new friend, Mr. Corrigan, again butts heads with the gang. The two teachers stop the gang from harassing Michael J. Fox and another student from the school band. The gang retaliates later by blowing up Mr. Norris's car. Mr. Norris goes to the police, but this is a revenge film, so we all know how helpful they are going to be. What's that phrase that Southerners say? About as useful as a one-legging man at a butt-kicking competition? Yeah, let's go with that. That's a nice image. A less nice image is how the gang retaliates against Mr. Corrigan for helping out Mr. Norris earlier. They kill all of his class animals. So things are heating up, and Mr. Norris is just about ready to lose it. But Stegman, again, gets the better of him.
Otherwise, you'd have done me right. Like this.
And for some reason I thought of the first time I saw Fight Club.
Oh God, no, please, no!
For some reason I thought of my first fight with Tyler.
No! Well, like this!
Anyway, Mr. Norris isn't about to leave well enough alone. He goes to Stegman's house to try to talk to his mother, and when that doesn't work, he trashes Stegman's car. I'm sure that won't have any bad consequences for Mr. Norris at all. Well, things will continue to escalate between Mr. Norris and the gang, and since this is a rather mean-spirited exploitation revenge film, things are going to get pretty nasty. And I don't want to spoil very much of that nastiness that's about to happen, so that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. Well, that escalation is a big highlight. The film does a really great job of building and building and building until a kindly professional teacher snaps and starts murdering high school students, and we're happy to watch him do it. That's some good filmmaking right there. There aren't very many films that make me happy to see children die. This one and Eden Lake, those might be the only two. A lot of revenge films have one big event that sets off the revenge portion of the movie, and this movie does have that final straw event, but there's a lot of tension built up before that. And I can't really think of too many revenge films that do things this way. Normally they go for the one big event and then revenge. I really like this one though, where it sort of slowly builds and escalates throughout the film, until someone snaps. That's pretty cool. Also, the acting is great here. Perry King does a great job as the teacher who starts off appalled by the student behavior and eventually lets rage be his guide, but I really have to give it up to Roddy McDowall. He is so great.
And he kept doing the scene, and every time he did the scene on the same word, he would start to cry.
I'm such a failure.
He starts crying, but right on the same word, take after take.
I'm such a failure.
Man, I was thinking to myself, this is unbelievable.
I don't think I can teach anymore. I can't get through.
So I walked up to him and I said, Roddy, how can this be? He says, well, look at my script. And he handed me a script, and in the script, over that word, it said, cry.
And the kids are effective too. A film like this needs believable villains, and this film has a whole gang of believable villains. But despite the good acting, that escalating plot, and heaps of mean-spirited violence at the end, I still don't think the movie is perfect. Like a gang member testing out a potential worker, this film has some shortcomings. Well, truthfully, I don't have a whole lot to complain about here. It's one of my favorite 80s revenge films, for all of the reasons I talked about before. My only real complaint is the soundtrack. The film has a bit of punk aesthetic, but there's not nearly enough punk on that soundtrack. I mean, the opening track of this film, for example, is cheesy as hell. How much better would it have been with an adolescent song? Much better.